Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Smriti. I'm a student of Tamil Nadu National Law University, and I'll be briefing on the drone rules of 2021. And the aim is to know the policy gaps in the rules of 2021. And unnamed aircraft vehicles or the UAVs or drones are very useful in civilian and commercial and even military activities. Drones penetrated the commercial sphere heavily. In 2013, Amazon wanted to deliver its packages using drones, and it delivered its first package using drone in 2016 at UK. Drones are also used for development purposes like aerial mapping, surveying, and construction. Drones were first used for military purposes in US after 9/11 attacks. It was used to monitor Afghan, and from then it targeted killing drones has become American way of war. Here, I'll be discussing about the drone rules of 2021. Besides DGCA, the civil operation of drones requires approval from airport authorities of India, Defense, and Ministry of Home Affairs. Operating drones require quality certificate issued by the Quality Council of India or any other certificate authorized by the central government. Drones can only fly in the green zone, which is 400 feet from the ground level. There are no yellow or red zone designated, but there is definition for red zone and yellow zone given in the rules. It says which includes above the land of territorial waters of India and notified port limits, where the drone operations are completely restricted. Yellow zone is where pilot or drone operator can get prior permission from the authorities for the drone operation. There are 5 types of drones. It is classified based on its weight. It starts from nano drone, which weighs around 250 grams, and there are large drones which weighs around 150 kilograms. Central government has enabled some safety features to be installed in drones by the person owning them or the pilot. That includes tracking system with the drone's unique ID and geofencing. Capability prototype drones are exempted from this. No person owning a drone is supposed to operate it without registering it with the authorities and getting its unique ID. It helps you track the drone, its speed, and the zone that it's in that's traveling. With the certificate of airworthiness and with drone acknowledgement number, a drone owner can apply for registration. When a drone is permanently lost or permanently damaged, it can be deregistered. Prior permission is required to operate a drone in yellow zone and red zone. Digital Sky platform holds the information of zones, perimeters, and the owners and all the pilots' information, which will be accessed to all the drone owners and pilots. Remote person requires a remote pilot license to operate a drone legally. The eligibility to operate drone, a pilot must be 18 or above, or 65 or below. He must have completed 10th standard or an equivalent examination. Pilot must have completed training from a recognized organization. The license is valid only if it's enlisted in the Digital Sky platform. It shall be renewed after 10 years. Exemption are to pilots who are operating micro or nano drones. There are policy framework for unnamed aircraft traffic management system. This framework develops drone corridors for the safety. A person who is drone pilot or a owner who does not comply with the rules shall be prosecuted under Section 10 of Aircraft Act. After fair hearing by Director General or any authority of state government or union territory, shall impose fine up to 1 lakh if found guilty. Now my teammate Janvi will continue with the policy gaps.
Hello everyone, I'm Janvi and I'll be talking about the policy gaps in the DGCA draft. So starting with the first one, that is the quality control. It entails the standardization of the drones. That a sizable number of drones are imported and there is a need to ensure quality control and standardization. There is no focused regulation regarding domestically produced drones, and it is an alarming fact that there is no set of guidelines ascertaining the airworthiness of an UAV. The absence of guidelines for imports also poses a massive threat to national security. Coming to the second one, that is standard operating protocols in case of incidents. The DGCA draft doesn't have any set guidelines for or protocols that should be followed in case any accident occurs. For example, in 2015, an unidentified man was spotted flying a drone close to the residence of the president and the Indian Parliament, and as a result of it, the police were left in a confused state and didn't know what set of rules they needed to follow in response to the situation. Even now, there is a worrying absence of dialogue between regulators and enforcers in developing SOPs for addressing UAV related situations. The third one is the question about the privacy. Drones operated by non-governmental agencies pose a major threat to existing privacy laws. Most UAVs have constantly transmitting cameras that operate in high definition, and they present a far more complicated issue considering that advancements in both sound and recording and data capture enable a drone to be used for far more engaging snooping. Therefore, a culture of privacy must be given emphasis when Indian law enforcement agencies use drones to conduct surveillance and engage in similar operations. Uh, then we come to management of threat. Terrorist organizations like ISIS have been using drones in their operations, and they can use drones for a variety of purposes, such as surveying security arrangements, jamming networks at integral locations, and executing bombings. To counter the rogue drones, DRDO has come up with an anti-drone technology that can detect, intercept, and shoot down drones. However, it is still undergoing trials. In conclusion, we still need equipments like nets, frequency jammer guns, and anti-drone rays to bring down the rogue drones. Air traffic management is another area where we need to upgrade the current infrastructure that can manage the air traffic smoothly. The Indian government has constituted a committee to ensure the smooth upgrade of ATC units to accommodate UAVs in the in the airspace. And then we come to the legal liability that the draft assigns the legal responsibilities of UAVs on their operators. The assumption is that the operator would ensure that the vehicle is airworthy and is functioning as expected. In the event of an accident due to malfunctioning of the vehicle itself, it would be unfair to hold the operator responsible and carry out legal proceeding against them. With such cases involving vehicular accidents, a third-party liability mechanism is used, limiting the liability of either party. Now, Vipul sir is going to carry forward the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm Vipul Tyagi, and I'll be firstly listing out the stakeholders in the entire drone operations. First one are the individuals, naturally, because they are the ones who decide what role drone can be used in, whether it's for agricultural purposes, military purposes, transportation, whatever. Manufacturing companies are the second biggest stakeholders because they manufacture a particular equipment based on its use. The regulatory authorities come in next because they have to regulate the entire environment of drone usage. And the governments come in as stakeholders in the international scenario of usage of drones. Next, please. In the last part, I will just tell about the military and cross-border use. Firstly, the draft rules which have been drafted by DGCA.
Sorry for interrupting. Hello. Sorry for interrupting, because we need to wrap it up.
I am just wrapping it up. The draft rules have left military use out of it, so we need to include them. There are no international treaties yet on usage of drones, whether for military purposes or otherwise. Needs to be done at the earliest, as we have seen in Afghanistan. Recently, we've seen the use of drones in Jammu by Pakistan against the Indian military. So this needs to be done. And lastly, are the next, please, are the questions for research, which we'll be taking on. I will be taking on the